Okay, continuing with these cases that involve the First Amendment, we get to Bethel School District v. Fraser, 1986. We're coming forward here. So, what are the facts? What issue was the court asked to decide, and what did the court say? Slide 26. On April 26, 1983, Matthew Fraser, a student at Bethel High School in Pierce County, Washington, delivered a speech nominating a fellow student for elective office. Approximately 600 high school students, many of whom were 14-year-olds, attended the assembly. Students were required to attend the assembly or to report to the study hall. Two of Fraser's teachers, with whom he discussed the contents of his speech in advance, informed him that the speech was inappropriate and that he probably should not deliver it, and that his delivery of the speech might have severe consequences. I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, if a teacher or administrator ever looked at something I was doing and said, don't think so, I did whatever that person told me. If they said, no, this is not something good to go into the school newspaper, I didn't put it in the school newspaper. Okay, get my drift? Well, that's not what this fella did. I'm going to read you his speech. I know a man who is firm. He's firm in his pants. He's firm in his shirt. But most of all, his belief in you, the students of Bethel, is firm. Jeff Coleman is a man who takes his point and pounds it in. If necessary, he'll take an issue and nail it to the wall. He doesn't attack things in spurts. He drives hard, pushing and pushing until finally he succeeds. Jeff is a man who will go to the very end, even the climax, for each and every one of you. So vote for Jeff for ASB Vice President. He'll never come between you and the best our high school can be. Now, if you're hearing this or reading this and you don't get it, I'm not going to explain. Ask a friend. It was kind of sexually tainted. Absolutely. During the speech, a school counselor observed some students hooting and yelling and some making gestures, graphically simulating the sexual activities pointedly alluded to in the respondent's speech. Others appeared to be bewildered and embarrassed by the speech. A Bethel High School disciplinary rule prohibiting the use of obscene language in the school provided, quote, conduct which materially and substantially interferes with the educational process is prohibited, including the use of obscene, profane language or gestures. The morning after the assembly, the assistant principal called Matthew into her office and told him that the school considered his speech to have been a violation of this rule. Matthew was given a chance to explain his conduct, and he admitted to deliberately using sexual innuendo in the speech. He was then suspended for 3 days, and his name was removed from the list of candidates for graduation speaker. There you go, suspension for 3 days and not being considered for graduation speaker were his punishments. We go to, so what were the results of this case of Bethel? Schools can censor and punish students for, quote, lewd, indecent, or plainly offensive speech. Now we have some circular reasoning in the definitions. You'll notice here the dictionary definitions are: lewd means inciting to sensual desire or imagination. Vulgar means lewd, obscene, or profane in expression. And indecent means being or tending to be obscene. The student's First Amendment rights are not equal to adult rights. So get that straight. Get that down in your notes. You, as a student, as a high school student, and even as a younger student, have First Amendment rights They are just not as great as mine. Okay? And when we get into obscenity and indecency, if we do, we have to have time for that. You will understand that there is a legal difference between obscenity and indecency. Slide 30. The Seattle School District Student Rights Policy goes as follows. Students, as citizens, have certain constitutional rights. The school system cannot unduly infringe on those rights. The schools may, however, set some reasonable limits on those rights in order to meet the district's obligation to educate. In other words, if you don't interfere with my ability to educate my students, then you're probably going to be okay. Students have freedom of speech and may express their personal opinions. That freedom does not allow personal attacks, swearing, threats of violence, or interference with other people's rights to express themselves. 31. Here's another case. Giles v. Marino. In 2004, Zachary Giles, a 13-year-old student at Williamstown Middle High School in Vermont, wore a t-shirt to school that criticized President Bush as a chicken hawk president. The teacher also accused the president of being a former alcohol and cocaine abuser. To make its point, the shirt displayed images of drugs and alcohol. And yes, I'm going to show you the shirt. Here was one side of the shirt, George W. Bush, Chicken Hawk in Chief, AWOL, First Chicken Hawk Wing, World Domination Tour. Then on the other side, you see that we have claims that he's a cocaine addict and some facts underneath. He was a draft dodger, a crook, a lying drunk driver. Okay, that was the shirt he wore to school. Now on slide 34, we see what happens here. Zach Giles wore the t-shirt on average once a week for 2 months. Although the shirt evoked discussion from students, it did not cause any disruptions or fights inside or outside the school. Okay, get that? No disruption, no fights. On a school field trip, Zach wore the t-shirt. A parent who was to chaperone the trip noticed the shirt and voiced her objection to a teacher. The teacher determined that the t-shirt, specifically the images of drugs and alcohol, violated the following provision of the school's dress code. Williamstown Middle High School dress code. Any aspect of a person's appearance which constitutes a real hazard to the health and safety of self and others or is otherwise distracting is unacceptable as an expression of personal taste. Example, clothing displaying alcohol, drugs, violence, obscenity, and racism is outside our responsibility and integrity guideline as a school community and is prohibited. So think about this. What you saw on his t-shirt, did you think that that violates the dress code? Think about that. Slide 36. The teacher gave Zach 3 choices, which I think is nice. Give somebody a choice. Turn the shirt inside out. He could have done that. Tape over the images of the drugs and alcohol and the word cocaine, or change shirts. Zach's father came in to speak with the teacher, who reiterated that the shirt contravened dress code policy, meaning it violated it. Zach returned home with his father for the remainder of that day. The next day, Zach came to school wearing the t-shirt. The teacher again told Zach to tape over the images, turn the shirt inside out, or change shirts. Zach refused. The teacher filled out a discipline referral form and sent Zach home. Zach wore the t-shirt to school again the next day. This time, however, with the images of drugs and alcohol and the word cocaine covered with duct tape. On the duct tape, plaintiff had scrawled the word censored. Zach then sued the school and the school district for violating his First Amendment rights of free speech. Is the speech protected by the First Amendment? Should Zach have been allowed to wear the shirt to school? Did his actions threaten to create a material and substantial interference with the school's effective operation? Did his actions involve lewd, indecent, or offensive speech? Is the school district's policy constitutional? Here's the court's decision. Fraser, which you might remember is the profane speech that the fellow gave, that case decision does not apply. Images of a martini glass, a bottle and glass, a man drinking from a bottle, and lines of cocaine do not constitute lewd, indecent, or plainly offensive speech. Wait a minute. Sorry, lost my way here. The images may cause school administrators displeasure and could be construed as insulting or in poor taste. We cannot say, however, that these images by themselves are plainly offensive. They feel that the Tinker case applies. The parties agree that Zach's t-shirt did not cause any disruption or confrontation in the school, nor do defendants contend they had a reasonable belief that it would. Zach wore the t-shirt on average once a week for 2 months without any untoward incidents occurring. Because his t-shirt did not cause any disruption, defendants' censorship was unwarranted. Woo, woo, woo. And extra comments on that case. So in other words, Zach won his case. All right. We make no holding with respect to whether images of illegal drugs and alcohol on a t-shirt that promotes drug and alcohol use could be censored under the Supreme Court's student speech cases. You would have to go back and look at prior cases. And so they're not saying that the actual images on a t-shirt that promotes drug and alcohol use could be censored. They're saying there's a possibility that it could be censored, but Zach did not do what the teachers said he did. Now we're going to take another break here, and we'll be back to finish up.